I mean, I think a lot of people are thinking about how they're going to approach the start of the new academic year after the summer holidays. And you read a lot of blogs and people commenting about things like a recovery curriculum and the need to be trauma informed in your practice and all these sorts of things. And what's on my mind is that I worry a lot about this kind of language when my experience of these things is that schools are very often, for the majority of kids, the place where it's just the safest thing to be is totally normal. And if you've got kids who've experienced things, and I think the thing I'm most sort of close to would be, say, a bereavement, a kid who's lost a parent or experienced a really serious trauma. They don't really want you sort of going up to them, kind of asking how they feel the whole time. They don't want you to make them feel different and weird and strange at school, because that's kind of what's happening at home. What they want school to be is kind of neutral, kind of normal, every day, just getting you back on with it. And so for lots of reasons, I feel like there's a danger that teachers are going to be giving this message that we've got to be suddenly all watching out for these kids who've got to have had a terrible time and overdoing that to the point where they make things worse. So that's not meaning you're not sensitive to the possibility that some kids have had a strange time. But even then, I think what better thing to do is to say, hey, welcome back to my really normal classroom. We're going to teach you some stuff. And isn't that great? And be really enthusiastic about the job in hand, which is teaching some interesting things or reading some great books. And, keeping it as sort of back to basics, back to normal as you can possibly manage, rather than feeling that you're sort of about to sort of crush somebody's spirit or something. Because I think teachers are not at their best when they're feeling like they've got to sort of think about a million things. And what we're good at is teaching things, and that's what we should be focusing on. So I don't know, that's my hunch about this whole thing. What do you think?
It's a weird one, because I'm coming at it from kind of a slightly different angle, in that my own children are very young. So they haven't necessarily got a masses of experience of that kind of, as you said, the normal school experience. Everything's going to be kind of new for them. I know my three will be fine. Lockdown's been more stressful for me trying to homeschool them than it has for them. But I do think there needs to be a degree of vigilance amongst the teaching profession when we go back. Yes, we're trying to keep sort of business as usual and keep things as normal and as happy and as on an even keel as we can with the children. But there needs to be that vigilance and not making those assumptions that, or they must have been all right because their family does this, or I know about this, or I know about that. And actually just keeping in mind the fact that everybody's lockdown experience will have been completely different from their normal day-to-day setup, different from their normal day-to-day everyday lives. And actually, what we shouldn't be doing is making assumptions, either, like you said, that everybody's had this awful trauma, and also that nobody's had any kind of trauma as well. It's having that professional vigilance and that overview, and using your skills and your knowledge to actually think, that's not quite what I would have expected from that pupil or that group of pupils. So that's when I need to start implementing all the kind of extra awareness or extra programs or digging a little bit deeper. It's about recognising professionally that this has happened. We can't pretend that the pandemic hasn't happened. We can't be like, nothing to see here, move along, everything's fine. But we do need to present as much of a normal as we can, but with this heightened vigilance about not making assumptions about what children may or may not experience.
I think you're probably right there. I think that one of the things I think is interesting is that the sort of slightly paradoxical thing, which is that some of the kids who find it harder to get back to school are the ones who've had a really good time at home, because actually they've enjoyed the way it's been structured. So I know some kids of children of my friends if actually they've quite enjoyed it. They've been able to manage their own time. They've done things in their own pace. And actually, even these few kind of taster days back this side of the summer, they found it a bit like, oh God, suddenly we're working with a teacher kind of marshalling us through, and it's kind of really slowed it all down a bit. And so there is that really interesting phenomenon that if your kind of remote learning has been really good, then to match that flexibility and that dynamism in your teaching, there's going to be a change. So those kids might be the ones who are thinking, oh God, school, you're holding me back again. And that's an interesting challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the whole stamina issue, especially for younger children, is going to be a big issue because I mean, my 6-year-old, she gets up in the morning really early, she gets the iPad, she logs herself onto Oak National, she does 3 or 4 lessons, and she comes to me at sort of 9:30 and goes, I'm done for the day, I'm off to play. Well, actually, that's going to be really tricky for her to go back to school, be in from, well, we've got a staggered start now, but from sort of 9 till 3, and actually keep on going for that length of time. So I think the stamina issue for some children is going to be a real issue, and the fact that they haven't got control about when they do stuff anymore. They've been able to do their own learning as and when they need to do it, or when it fits in with the family. And actually, that kind of really highly structured environment, when they go back, is going to be a little bit of a shock to the system.
They'll be exhausted, won't they? The length of the day, everything will be hard.
Yeah.
But I do think this is one of the things, without trying to be too controversial about it, I actually feel there is a bit of a tendency amongst some people, of course everyone's not like this, where to kind of impose their own emotions onto a situation. In our house, we call people ambulance chasers who like a bit of drama, like a bit of drama, and they say everything's a nightmare the whole time. Oh, it's a nightmare. And that if you go into a situation with a group of kids with your own baggage about, oh, it's a nightmare, we're never going to catch up, and we're so far behind, and you poor things, you've been struggling at home all the time, that's not the right kind of cue. So you kind of have to just sort of leave that at the door and say, that might be how I'm feeling, but when I come in, it's just that big bright face and welcoming back, and hey, look, if you found it hard, fine, we're just going to sort everything out, it's all going to be cool, and we'll get there. That kind of can-do spirit, that it's all possible. And I think that's a culture, isn't it? You need to create that expectation amongst a group that that's how we're going to be.
And we forget as well that we are also not imposing our own structures on, but our own kind of, and our own emotions, but our own experiences. My 4-year-old had his induction day for primary school via Zoom the other day, which to me was like, oh my God, he's not been up to the school, he's not done this, he's not done that. Oh, isn't it terrible? Because obviously my elder 2 children have been involved in that. And then as a school leader, you're involved in the provision of that. He absolutely loved it. He thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. He thought it was brilliant talking to his teachers on the computer, showing them all his toys. And it, if, like you say, he could have gone into that going, oh, it's so dreadful, he's deficit, he's not had that experience. He's had the only experience he knows, and he thinks it's absolutely blooming marvellous. He's had a great time. So it's not only imposing our own emotions, but the kind of the historical structure of what we've done isn't necessarily always the best way or the one that the children enjoy. So we've kind of got to go with it a little bit and just use our professional knowledge and skills and expertise to kind of navigate it and think, as long as they're all right and they're safe, and we're providing a curriculum which meets their learning needs now, I think we're probably going to be all right. Yeah,
I think so. And I think in a school where you sort of feel like when you're teaching them before, like they're halfway through an exam course, some teachers are worried they'll have forgotten everything or they didn't learn much. But I do think, again, that's about just saying, okay, where do we get to? Here's some of the stuff I'm hoping you'd have learned, but let's see how you did. But not drag over that too long. Just say, okay, this is where I think we are now. Okay, let's just reframe it and let's head for there. And set out a kind of future journey rather than agonizing too much about the past one.
And being really clear about what it is you want them to learn as well, as in stripping back the curriculum and thinking, right, this is the really important stuff that you really, really need to know for this subject or for this aspect of what we're teaching. Let's get rid of all the extraneous bits and bobs, concentrate on the important bits that are the bits that if you don't get this right, you won't be able to do anything else either. So let's get the bare bones sorted, find the gaps in what you don't know there, plug those, and then move on. Just like you do with every new class you inherit every single year. You do exactly the same thing. You find out where the gaps are, you plug those gaps so they've got a firm foundation, and then you move on. It's exactly what we've got to do, the same thing that we've always done.
I totally agree, yeah. In fact, I heard of someone telling me about how they know the school where they've identified a group of disadvantaged kids, and they've got them in for 2 weeks with a specialist company doing a kind of 2 weeks well-being program instead of the normal lessons, while everyone else is doing the normal lessons. I'm just thinking, no, like, why would you do that to those poor kids? That you're going to come and make them endure a 2 weeks well-being course when you could just be making them feel like everybody else. Anyway, look, I think you've probably done that one. So look, that's what's been on our minds. Thank you everyone for joining us today.